Right, let's take a look at the past paper questions solutions then for today's work on speed, distance and time. Question 1. Kevin drove from Newcastle to Swindon, a distance of 273 miles. He started his journey at 9:15 a.m. and arrived in Swindon at 4:15 p.m. Calculate his average speed for the journey. So average speed is distance travelled over time taken. So the distance travelled is 273 miles. And the time taken, you're going from 9:15 in the morning until 4:15 in the evening, which is, so that's 16:15. So it's going to be 7 hours, yeah? 9:15, let's do it on our fingers, shall we? 9:15, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 hours. So the average speed is going to be 273 divided by 7, which is 39 miles per hour. So that's part A. Part B. On average, his car uses 1 gallon of diesel for every 40 miles travelled. A gallon of diesel costs approximately £6.30. Find an estimate to the nearest pound of how much it costs him for the diesel used in the journey. So every 40 miles he's travelled uses 1 gallon. So to work out the number of gallons, we are going to work out how many 40s fit into 273. So number of gallons used would be 273 divided by 40, which is 6.825. Find an estimate to the nearest pound of how much it cost him for the diesel used. So let's round that to 7 gallons. And then the cost will be £6.30 multiplied by 7 equals £44.10. Now if you didn't round that off, if you kept that as 6.825 and did that, then that's fine. I've just realised that I would lose a mark for that because they want the answer to the nearest pound. So to the nearest pound, that's going to be £44. So if you'd have kept that at 6.825 and times by 7, times by £6.30, wasn't it? 6.825 times £6.30. Then your answer would have been £43, which still would have been an acceptable answer. Question 2. Nicola used her car to travel from her home to her friend's house. It took her 2.5 hours, driving at an average speed of 30 miles per hour. Her return journey home along the same route took 3 hours. Calculate her average speed on her journey home. So Nicola used her car to travel from home to her friend's house. It took her 2.5 hours, driving at an average speed of 30 miles an hour. So I can use that information to work out how far away it was. Once I know how far away it was, I've then got enough information with the time it took her to get back to work out the average speed. So distance travelled. So if we remember our triangle, it looks like this. Speed is distance over time. So distance is speed times time. Which is going to be 30 times, and 2.5 hours we've got to put in as a decimal. So that's times 2.5. So 75 miles is the distance of the journey. So on the way home, will be distance over time, which will be 75 divided by 3. Which is 25 miles per hour. So on the way out, it took 30 miles an hour. On the way home, our average speed was 25 miles per hour. Question 3. Megan and Rodri both set out at the same time from home to go to a swimming pool. Rodri travels by car, Megan cycles straight through the park. So there's the home, there's the swimming pool. Megan gets to go in a straight line because she's on a push bike. Rodri needs to follow the road network. Rodri's journey by car is 5.5 miles. His average speed for the journey is 22 miles per hour. So I've got distance and speed. That will allow me to work out how long it took. Megan's average speed on her bike was 12 miles per hour. Megan arrives at the swimming pool 5 minutes before Rodri. Calculate the distance Megan cycles. So first of all, we can work out how long it took Rodri. Time taken for Rod's journey. So speed is distance over time. So time is distance over speed. So the distance is 5.5 and the speed is 22 miles per hour. So if we do 5.5 divided by 22, we get 0.25, and that time is in hours. Now I know that 0.25 hours is a quarter of an hour, which is 15 minutes. So it took Rodri 15 minutes to drive from home to the swimming pool. Megan arrives at the swimming pool 5 minutes before Rodri, so it only took Megan 10 minutes. So 10 mins. Okay, so the time taken for Megan's journey, she arrives 5 minutes before Rodri, so 10 minutes. Calculate the distance Megan cycles. So distance for Meg is speed times time, which is 12 times, now 10 minutes, remember we're going to use our time button for that. It isn't 0.1, which is the most common wrong answer. 10 minutes is 10 out of 60 for as a fraction of an hour. So we're going to do 12 times 0 hours 10 minutes. And that distance is 2 miles. Okay, so you need to think carefully about what you're working with these questions. Question 4. Laura has her own car. During April, Laura drove a total distance of 560 miles in her car. Her car's fuel consumption was 37.8 miles per gallon. Petrol cost £1.48 per litre. Given that 1 gallon is approximately 4.55 litres, calculate the cost of the petrol that Laura used during April. You must show all your working. So she's travelled a total distance of 560 miles and her fuel consumption was 37.8 miles per gallon. So every time she travels 37.8 miles, she uses a gallon of fuel. So first thing to do is work out how many gallons used. which you're going to get by seeing how many times 37.8 fits into 560. So 14.8 gallons if we round that to one decimal place. So that's how many gallons, but the cost of fuel is in litres. So I'm now going to change that into litres. Given that 1 gallon is roughly 4.55 litres, so 2 gallons will be 2 lots of that, 3 gallons, 3 lots of that, 14.8 gallons will be 14.8 lots of that in litres. So in litres, we've got 14.8 times 4.55. So 67.34 litres of fuel she's used. And the cost is £1.48 for every litre. So the total cost will be the number of litres she's used, 67.34, multiplied by the cost per litre. So £99.66. So that one, nothing to do with speed. Part B. Laura spent 10 hours 45 minutes driving during April. Calculate the average speed of Laura's car for the distance driven. So the average speed is the distance, which is 560 miles, over the time taken, and we're going to put that in using our time button. So 560 divided by 10 hours 45 minutes equals 52.1 miles per hour. But if you left it as 52, that would be fine. If you didn't want to write that as 10 hours 45 minutes, you'd have to remember that 45 minutes is 3/4 of an hour, which is 0.75. So you could have done 560 divided by 10.75. What the examiners are waiting for you to do is to fall into the trap that you would type that in as 10.45. Question 5. Anwen travelled 165 miles in her car. For the first 2 hours of her journey, she travelled on a motorway at an average speed of 60 miles per hour. For the remainder of her journey, she travelled at an average speed of 30 miles per hour. How long did her journey take? So let's split into the two sections. First part of journey. So the time, speed, distance, time is distance over speed. Sorry, we know the time. Hold on. How long did the journey take? Right, so for the first 2 hours, so we know the speed and the time for the first part of the journey, so we can work out how far out of the 160 miles she was on a motorway. So the distance is speed times time, which is 106. Speed is 60 times time, which is 2, so that's 120 miles. So now I know how far she's travelled in the second part of the journey. So the second part of the journey covers 165 minus 120 is 45 miles. and she travelled that distance at an average speed of 30 miles an hour. So now I can work out how long that second part of the journey took. So the time taken is distance over speed, which is 45 divided by her average speed of 30. So 45 divided by 30 is 1.5 hours. So how long did her journey take? So that's 1 hour 30 minutes. 0.5 of an hour, it's half an hour, which is 30 minutes. So the total journey will be first 2 hours and another hour and a half. So 2 hours and 30 minutes. Question 6. Gary travelled a distance of 231 kilometres in 3 hours 30 minutes. Calculate Gary's average speed in kilometres per hour. Circle your answer. So speed is distance over time, which is 231. 3 hours and 30 minutes is 3.5 hours, which is 3.5. So you're either going to put into your calculator 231 over 3.5 or divided by 3.5, like that, to get 66 kmh. Or 231 over 3 hours 30 minutes using the time button. Just to show you that that gives you the same thing. 66 kilometers per hour. So that's the answer they're looking for. Travel graph below represents Scott's bike ride starting from home. Distance from home. So here is home, 0, no miles from home, 5 kilometers, 10, and so on. Between which two times was Scott furthest away from home? So the horizontal axis is home, and as you move up the graph you get further and further from home. So he's furthest from home between there and there, which is between 1400 and halfway between 14 and 15, which is 1430, 2:30. So A is between 1400 and 1430. B. Scott started his bike at 12 o'clock. He has a cycle computer that shows the distance he rides. He had 2 half-hour rests, but otherwise kept on cycling. He set his cycle computer to 0 when he left home. What distance did his cycle computer show at 1500? Okay, so the most common wrong answer here is going to be, well, that's where he's home. At 1500, that's where he is, so he's 10 miles from home. But the distance he's travelled, first of all, he's travelled 15 kilometres to get to that point. And then he hasn't reset his clock, so when he's travelling back towards home, that distance is also accumulating on his clock. So he has another 5 kilometres on his journey. He's pedalling for 20 kilometres. Okay, so that's a question you really got to think carefully about. Okay, because it's recording the distance travelled, not the distance from home. What was Scott's average speed between 1300 and 1330? You must give the units of your answer. So speed is distance over time. The distance he travels between 13 and 1330 is what have we got there? We've got half, so it's 5. Half of 5 is 2.5, so that's a distance of 2.5 kilometers between there and there. So 2.5, and the time between 13 and 13:30 is half an hour, which is 0.5. So you're either going to put 2.5 divided by 0.5 to get 5 kilometers per hour, or if you're using the time button, you're going to be doing 2.5 over 0 hours 30 minutes. And get the same answer of 5 kilometers per hour. So it doesn't matter which you use, but most common wrong answer there would be to put 0.30 underneath, and then you'd lose the marks, because 30 minutes is half an hour. Question 7. Nicola used her car to travel from her home to her friend's house. It took her 2.5 hours driving at an average speed. Hang on, haven't we done this one? Yeah, we've already done that one. So question 7 is a repeat of question, sorry about that, question 2. Question 8. Anna travelled 200 miles by car from Preston to Bristol. Her car clock showed the time to be 13:25 at the start of her journey. She stopped on a motorway service station at 3:40. At 4:05 she continued on her journey. When she arrived at Bristol, her car clock showed the time to be 17:50. What was her average speed whilst driving? So the distance part of that is easy. It's 200 miles. We've got to work out how long she was actually driving for. So driving between 13:25 and 3:40. Well, 3:40 is 15:40. So this is like we were doing last week now. So from 13:25 to where should we go? 14 is 35 minutes. From 14 to 15 is 1 hour. And from 15 to 15:40 is another 40 minutes. So we've got 1 hour, 1 hour 40, and then plus another 35 minutes is going to be 2 hours and 15 minutes. So in that part of the journey, she's travelling for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Then she's going from 4:05, so that's the 13:25 to 15:40. Then the next part of the route is from 16:05 to 17:50. So we're starting at 16:05, then we're going from 16:05 up to 17:05 is 1 hour, and then from 17:05 to 17:50 is another 45 minutes. So that part of the journey is 1 hour 45 minute. So then we've got to add together 2 hours, 3 hours, and 3/4 of an hour and 1/4 of an hour is another hour. So in total, the total driving time will be 4 hours. So the average speed is the distance, which is 200, divided by the time, which is 4, which will be 50 miles per hour. So with that one, it's time work like we were doing last week, to get the total driving time, and then a straightforward average speed. Okay, so those are a bit mixed up. Some of them were easy, some of them were a bit harder. Hopefully you did okay.